I, female 23, have been told my entire life that if anything happens to my parents, I'll be my sister's guardian. She's 33 and has some disabilities. She's currently living in a group home. The government pays for a good portion of the costs, but not all. My parents have made sure that they have accessed every resource available for her to ensure she has as good a life as possible. We were visiting her this last weekend when they brought it up again. They're both reasonably wealthy, but had health scares in the last couple of years. They once again said that I would be her guardian. I have been giving this a bit of thought. I have 2 older brothers. They're both married and established in their careers. They would be better choices than I am. I want to go see the world. I'm lucky enough that my job can be done from anywhere, that I can access the internet. When we went out to dinner, I brought it up and said that I had 3 ideas. They made all 3 of us her guardians so we could split the responsibility and duties. They leave their entire estate to my sister in a trust that will oversee her care. They leave me their entire estate with the proviso that I become her sole guardian and take full responsibility. Mine is sentimental stuff for the rest of my family, obviously. I thought that was fair, since it's not like they're rich, and their estate will mostly consist of their house and the insurance policies they took out when they realized the long-term care cost for my sister. They said that I was trying to shirk my responsibility to my sister and that I was greedy for trying to get everything. I had one last suggestion, and they really hated it. I said that they were welcome to cut me completely out of their will, but that had to include guardianship of my sister. They could leave everything to her and my brothers, but that would mean I would be completely free of responsibility for her care. My dad got really angry, and my mom was crying when I left. My brothers both called me to say I was being an idiot for springing this on my parents, and that I was being greedy, trying to keep them and their families from getting anything when our parents passed away. I asked both of them if they wanted 100% responsibility for our sister in return for the entire estate. I volunteered to sign away everything to them. Neither one took me up on the offer. Not the idiot. Love how your brothers are mad because you're calling out this misogynistic BS. So your parents want you to put your entire life on hold to take care of your sister with no actual benefit? Why would you do that? I mean, yes, it's not your sister's fault, but it's also not your fault. Splitting 3 ways is fair. Absolutely agreed. Your brothers want 1/3 of the estate, but you do all the care? Because you're the female? Stand your ground. Your parents are idiots for dumping all of this on a young woman. Not that you couldn't handle it, just that it's not fair when other family members could help. You sound pretty grounded, though, and willing to advocate for yourself. I hope you have a great life. Good luck with this situation. Agree with everything except one point. The parents are not kind of idiots here. They are tremendous idiots and created the illusion that OP only existed to support the sister. They're the ones who didn't set up their will to pay for the sister's needs. Part of me wonders if they purposely decided to have OP to set her up as a guardian for life, or if they decided that since she was the only girl, it would be her duty. Neither way is even a little bit acceptable. Your parents and brothers hope to take advantage of you and your generosity, but I don't believe you can be compelled to accept guardianship of your sister, by the way. Your parents are in a fairyland, thinking they can just pass on this enormous responsibility to you, the youngest sibling with the fewest resources, just because you're the girl. Your sister is not your responsibility in any way. Time to go no contact with your family. They don't love you. They see you as the way to offload their burden. My girlfriend and I were at a restaurant, and she was not fond of the menu. She has no dietary restrictions or is vegan. She's just a picky eater. However, she ordered anyways and wanted to get the same thing I did. She hated it before taking the first bite, and I kept telling her to at least try it. Finally, she took a bite and gave me a gagging face. She continued complaining about the food and critiquing it while I was eating, and people were watching, which was pretty embarrassing. What shocked me was that she went up to the waiter and loudly expressed him to take it back, and she didn't want it anymore, and it was awful. I got up, I left and got in my car and went home. She noticed and called me while I was driving, and I went home and called her back and told her what she did was embarrassing and something a Karen would do. She was crying and told me to screw off and called me an idiot and all sorts of other names. She had someone pick her up from the restaurant, but what she told me when she got home is that I have to pay her back for the food, and she deserves me to take her to another restaurant. After an argument, I asked her to leave, and I haven't spoken to her since. Her friend messaged me, the one who picked her up, saying I was a piece of crap and I should be ashamed because I left her at the restaurant with the check. Am I the idiot? You left her with the check? You owe her for your meal. OMG, you are the idiot. I sure hope this relationship is over. You two are awful together. Everyone's the idiot here. She was being a brat, but you left her there when you were her ride. You could have waited for her outside or something. You both need to grow up. What a ridiculous thing to break up over. Also, what was the discussion at the beginning of the meal? Did she ask to leave together? And you were like, no, or what? I highly disagree. Actually, this is exactly the kind of thing to break up over. Wildly toxic public behavior. She's a walking red flag. But you left her there when you were her ride. Why is this a problem? Surely it's not because you think women are infantilized, helpless dependents. She's old enough to Uber back home. OP, you are not the idiot. I hope your girlfriend becomes your ex here soon. First off, she wouldn't even try the food. I'm sorry, but if you have no dietary restrictions but are unwilling to try new food, you're just childish. Second, she was loud enough for people to hear and stare at you, which is embarrassing on your behalf. But think of all the other people trying to enjoy a nice night out and having to listen to her. Third, she bothered the serving crew. Like, leave them alone. I don't see a problem with leaving her. She could call an Uber or her parents, since she wants to act like a child. I, 37 female, have 6 kids, with my husband, 37. Recently, one of my sisters, 31, asked to temporarily move in with us because of repairs being done to her home, which is not up to code. She has a husband, 31, and a son, tween. My nephew is not a good kid. He's a bully and frequently misbehaves. However, I decided to let her family stay anyway. Our young teen son is autistic. He's a very bright boy and quite popular, but he still struggles with sensory issues, social interactions, etc. But as I mentioned, he's still popular and social, mainly because he's an athlete. Our son plays baseball and lacrosse and is friends with a popular group of athlete boys in his school. These boys do everything together. They hang out pretty much every day until bedtime, help each other with homework, play video games, etc. It's delightful how close they are. The boys helped manage my son's successful run for school president and are always each other's biggest supporters. Our son is closer to these boys than he is to family. Our son doesn't like hugs, except for these boys. He tells them secrets he doesn't tell his family. My nephew seems to have an issue with this and has pushed my son's boundaries since arriving. I was dropping off my son at one of his friends' houses yesterday. The boy he's friends with collects all sorts of stuff, including fragile busts of athletes. My sister and her son decided to tag along with us while dropping him off. It turns out that my nephew's in the same class as this boy's sister. Judging from the stories I've heard, my son's friend's sister is also a little terror. My son went with his friend, and my nephew with his friend, while we sat in the car talking to the mom of the boy and girl. While we were sitting, the boys came rushing out to tell us that while they had left the room to go in the kitchen, my nephew went into the boys' room and touched the stuff, and he ended up breaking 2 busts. Thankfully, with the boys' help, we found replacements online and bought them. The total cost came to around $500, which their parents could afford, but so could my sister. My sister said she didn't want to pay for them because she didn't want her son to feel bad for making his mom have to pay for them. The other mom went into the house while we argued in the car. I told her that if she didn't pay them back, she'd have to find someone else to stay with, so she forked over the money. She told her son about it, and he said we were being unfair, and this wouldn't have happened if my son and his friends just did what I said. My sister's still upset with me, and some of our siblings have chimed in to take her side, saying I was being too punitive on her son. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. This is a simple case of actions have consequences. He, your nephew, broke it, so he, and by proxy his mother, should pay for the replacement cost. Additionally, if this problem with the nephew's behavior is not addressed now, it could worsen. And this is how we find out why her son is the little terror he is, because poor baby probably gets away with it every single time. Plus, how were you too punitive on her son? You made her pay, and it doesn't look like there were any consequences for him. Some boundaries were long overdue. Hold on. I'm going to write down this excuse for when I don't want to pay for stuff for my kid. Don't want to make the kid feel bad about daddy having to pay money. Idiot. That'll save me a fortune from accidental damages until college tuition. Why are you allowing your child's bully to live with your child? You're sacrificing your son's sense of security in his home for your sister and her son's sense of security. And you shouldn't have paid for the damage anyway. Then you wouldn't have needed to give your sister the ultimatum. Someone else's child was visiting with their friend and broke something. That's between the parents of those children, not on you. Paying for what you broke or feeling bad for making his mom have to pay is a natural consequence of breaking something. And since your child doesn't have to do what he says, that's no excuse. Right? What the actual heck? The boy said the other boy should have done what he said, meaning he broke the bust on purpose? That kid needs some help. OP, please reread what you wrote. Your nephew's doing horrible things, and those are only the ones you know about. Yeah, if my mom thought reimbursement was worth kicking someone out over, but bullying and mistreating me was okay, I would be angry. The sister absolutely should have paid for the new bust, and it was totally worth an ultimatum, but geez, is your son's ability to see his home as a literal safe space unimportant to you, OP? My 23 female, sister 30, had a son, tween, years ago, and her behavior changed after he was born. My sister used to be rational and a kind person, but when her son was growing up, I noticed that she didn't put any limits on him. He ran around our parents' house and broke many things on purpose, and he still throws tantrums when my parents try to correct him. When our parents do that, she comes running and argues with them, saying that her son is like that because he's autistic. However, there's no proof of this. I've taken her to consultations with autism specialists, and everyone said her son wasn't autistic, but she keeps telling people he is to justify his bad behavior. Last week was my niece's birthday, my brother's daughter, and everyone in the family was there. My sister's son started throwing a tantrum when he saw that the cake wasn't for him. He started screaming, crying, and trying to destroy the cake. Fortunately, my brother stopped him in time, but when he caught him, my sister came running, saying that he couldn't use physical force against a child because he's an autistic child. I just couldn't bear to hear that. I was already off limits, so I yelled at my sister and told her her son was not autistic, but a spoiled brat with no boundaries and poorly raised. She looked at me in shock, and many family members looked the same. She left with her son without waiting for the cake, and then sent me dozens of messages saying that I was an idiot, prejudiced against autistic people, and that she expected an apology. I really like my sister, and now I think maybe I overreacted by yelling at her at a family event. So, am I the idiot? Not the idiot. People that try and use autism as an excuse for their kids being crap are the worst, especially if the kid doesn't even have autism. Even if her son does turn out to be autistic, that doesn't mean he doesn't need discipline and rules. Being autistic requires a precise diagnosis and then therapy. If he's actually autistic, at his age, he should be well into that therapy. It sounds like even if he is autistic, he's not getting the treatment he needs. No, you misunderstand. It's not an excuse for his bad behavior. She loves being the autistic kid's mom and all the attention and sympathy that garners her. I'm sure of it. Your sister has some serious mental issues and should seek counseling for that. To label your child as autistic when they aren't and have them grow up believing they have a disability that they don't have is child abuse. Your sister's just a crappy parent. Here's a classic case of a parent spoiling their child. The tantrum when he realized the cake was for someone else's birthday and not his own is an obvious sign. Tell your sister to stop spoiling her child. The kid will grow up to be a crappy human being. I would even consider calling CPS if she continues the BS. Have you noticed how many people have labels now to excuse their crappy behavior? And literally every time I ask, when were you diagnosed? I'm sorry, etc. Without fail, not one has been diagnosed by a medical professional. It drives me crazy because I have PTSD and a couple of other things that were diagnosed after years of trying to get help. I don't know if they think it's cool or a get out of jail free card, but it makes me so angry because you still need to try to be a decent human being. My girlfriend, Katie, made a new friend a few months ago, Mary. Katie talked about her a lot. Mary said this, did that, started teaching her something, etc. It was a bit weird how much Katie looked up to Mary, but I didn't think much of it until Mary's husband, Joe, entered the picture too. From then on, Katie talked about their relationship all the time, how they do things, how they divide the chores, and how respectful they are to each other. Basically how they're just this best couple ever. I've met them too, and they're honestly nothing special, maybe a bit on the boring side even. Yesterday evening, Katie was again going on about them, saying things like Mary and Joe are true soulmates, and theirs is the healthiest relationship she's ever seen, blah, blah, blah. I had a long day at work, so I told her I didn't want to hear about them. I don't care about her creepy crush on this random couple, but if she likes them so much, she should go and ask them to adopt her or ask if she can be their third. Katie then gave me the cold shoulder and left to go home to her apartment instead of sleeping at my place like she was supposed to. I need to know if I'm right and her obsession is creepy, or if I'm not seeing something right and I'm the idiot here. Am I the idiot? You are the idiot. My friend, she's trying to tell you what she wants out of your relationship without hurting you or making you feel defensive. She said their relationship is the healthiest I've ever seen. A blind man could read that sign. She wants you to be a better person, and you completely missed the point. I hope she breaks up with you and finds someone interested in meeting her needs. I bet Joe would never tell Mary to shut up. Do you often feel threatened by hearing that other people have their act together? Katie was talking about her friends. That's a pretty normal conversation. You're taking it personally. Why? Tell her that if you think she's comparing you to them. Jealousy, dude. I doubt there's anything special about you if this is how you treat your girlfriend. While you're not wrong, and he is the idiot, she needs to open her mouth and say what she wants. All of this hinting and subliminal messaging is not the way, and all it's doing is creating discord. He isn't picking up on the hints. All he sees is her constantly fawning over these two people, and he doesn't get it, even after meeting them. If she wants her boyfriend to change, she must tell him what she wants in a relationship. On the other hand, OP is showing he doesn't care about what Katie wants. OP is ignorant, but Katie's manipulating instead of speaking plainly. All of this can be solved with decent communication.